and welcome again. Well, let's go around and introduce, and this way too, as we go around, if there's anything specific that you'd like to talk about, you can let us know. So I'm Susan Walker, and I'm retired, and there's nothing that I need to talk about today. So, but I'm really happy to be here. Yuji?
Hi, my name is Yuji, and I live in Montana and work for a nonprofit in New York. And I'm very happy now because the 3 months training just completed.
Oh, good. This training that
Gosh,
you gave, that you oversaw?
I organized the 3 month intense training for the new team, new parent educators team.
Okay.
Wow.
So yes, and my God, thank God. Oh God. Yes, I do have a lot, lots of thoughts about that, and it's really helped me realize I mean, we as a parent educator, we really want to give credit to ourselves. I mean, how much we must know. I mean, like we said last time, right? Parent educators need to know everything about everything. Yeah. So thank you. So uh, Jennifer.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Jennifer Wenner, and I teach in Minnetonka ECFE. And I'm feeling lots of back to school energy in the air, and which is exciting. And I don't have anything specific on my mind right now. Sarah.
Hi guys, Sarah Hardy. I am officially only with my company, Generations Parenting Support. And I have spent the week thinking about catalog and what I want to do. I'm feeling a little late in that, but excited. Things are kind of coming together. I am planning to do one or two, probably just one, based on current enrollment numbers, classes through District 196 Community Ed. For parents of older kids, kind of building on relationships that I've built there the past 2 years and filling a gap that is there in their catalog, hopefully. So we'll see. They've had classes like that in the past that have come and gone with instructors who are interested in doing them, so they haven't had a continuous program supporting parents of in my case, elementary age kids or even older kids. So we're giving that a shot. We'll see if that runs. And as I'm thinking about what I would want to talk about today, absent a lot of other burning issues, I did watch the recording of an NCFR webinar that I signed on for in July and finally got around to watching this week about supporting white parents with a white racial identity to talk about race and skin color with their children. And that is one topic that I've gone deep in. I've done some curriculum development on, and a lot of my own work and as a human and careful thinking about how to support parents like me to have conversations that are so often avoided or just not had with their kids. And it was such an interesting webinar. And one of the three experts on the webinar was someone named Dr. Kerr, Kerr. Let me make sure I'm telling you that right. And she's at the University of Wisconsin, which I was so proud. I was like, oh yes, look at us Midwestern people doing this work. And she was presenting her research exactly about that. And she has developed a curriculum, which she did not give specifics about, which I was super curious about and listening for, but because I've got this curriculum that I've been using that's ever evolving. Bear with me 1 second while I pull this up. That she has done with a small group of parents. I don't know if she was the parent ed. She's a PhD. Let me pull this up here so I can tell you exactly what I'm talking about. Nope, that's not it. Sorry, guys. I would have been more prepared had I realized this is what I wanted to talk about today. We are sorry that you were not able to attend our webinar. Here it is. Barriers and opportunities for white parents to discuss race and racism with their children. And let's see if I can open this up again. Oh, for Pete's sake, all these passwords and codes and the whole thing, for God's sake. Here we go.
That was-
Margaret Kerr, Kerr.
Kerr.
PhD, along with her colleagues, Lorna Durant, also a doctor, Durant, and Chang Sue Russell, PhD, who is, and Dr. Durant and Dr. Russell both have CFLE credentials. Dr. Kerr is just lists a PhD. Here, maybe I can copy this and I'll put. Anyway, what she was describing was, so I was like, that's what we do. That's what I do. And Susan, I thought of you because she was talking about how she evaluated her program.
Oh.
What kind of data she collected. All three of them were. All three of them have taken initiatives, but she was specifically, hers was the one I was most interested in because I was aligned with it most in terms of my own practice. So she was talking about a parenting group that she did, and it was like about 20 people, and she interviewed them before George Floyd was murdered. They took on this initiative, and then George Floyd was murdered, and she was able to go back and re-interview them. And then she had all this qualitative data, and then she coded it for three main themes. And I was like, based on the effectiveness and how they were changed by her curriculum. And I was like, golly day, if we could be so methodical and so just focused on evaluating the effectiveness of our curriculum, wouldn't that be awesome? And yet the churn continues day in and day out in the ECFE model, certainly, of like what we're doing. And we have not still done a great job, in my opinion, of showing efficacy, overall as a program or in individual programs or statewide. Okay. And here she's presenting one of three on this NCFR webinar about the effectiveness of our curriculum. And I'm like, this sounds awesome. I love this. And I even emailed her after. I'm like, I love what you're doing. I would love to help you continue to evaluate your curriculum here in the Twin Cities. But I suspect that she will disregard my email because I'm not in academia, or she doesn't understand. The negative Nelly on this shoulder is like, she's not going to want to work with you. You don't have a PhD. You're just an educator in the field, right? Like if she doesn't understand ECFE and she doesn't understand our program, which she might because she's in Wisconsin, so she might. I feel like it will be easily skipped. I'd be so grateful for the opportunity to talk with her about her work. So now that you ask, that came up for me this week.
Well, I have so many thoughts, but before I do, and first of all, but I'll come back. But before I do, Jennifer or Yuji, do you have any thoughts or questions or anything you want to share with Sarah?
I would say, Sarah, I mean, I had a luck when I contacted the presenters, and I would say everyone responded to me.
Okay. Well, we'll see what happens.
So don't, I mean, I think, and also like I mean, sometimes they shared information with me, what I needed, and sometimes, some even happy to have a short meeting with you, conversation with you. So don't think, they won't work with you because you are a PhD. No. I know.
That's thanks, Yuji. It's just the voices in your head that you suppress, right? But you're like, she's busy in her academic. And also I know it's like a awkward summer week to be sending that kind of email, right? Because everybody's like trying to get their last bits of summer in before people go back to school. I have hope that she'll get back to me. I'm glad I emailed her, but we'll see. But thank you.
Yes, and sometimes it won't hurt if you resend the email, because during summertime people are so busy.
That's
and just so buried, in so hundreds of emails. So like after the school year starts,
right.
remind,
That's great. Thank you.
Welcome.
Jennifer?
And I do
Thank you for
agree with-
sharing.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh,
No, I was just saying, thank you for sharing this speaker and her title, because it's always something that I could use additional kind of ideas, resources, learnings around. So
yeah. So, so my first question is, Sarah, who is her age group of children? So about parents talking to their children. So who,
3 to 6 year olds.
oh,
age-
so in early childhood.
Mhm.
Okay,
She started 3 to 5, and then she grew it to 3 to 6 year olds because some of the parents of 6 year olds, like word of mouth, was like, can we do this too?
okay, great. So I ask that because so as a researcher, if you have a program and you've evaluated it and you're presenting the evaluation data on your program, that's expected of you, right? Is that because the whole thing about getting grants is demonstrating the effectiveness, because then eventually scaling up and testing it on
Right.
different audiences and all that stuff. And so, so one thought I had going through was about, well, yes, ECFE definitely needs that. Oh, Jennifer's dog.
You make us jealous.
Oh, there she
sorry,
is.
he
Hi,
came to visit. He's a little distracting.
hi,
They're so
sweetie.
sweet.
Oh, is so one thing is that there's a whole culture and an expectation around that data gathering with what she does.
Mhm.
And in her track as a person in higher education who is looking for a research position, and my guess is especially if she landed it at Wisconsin, she might have been, I would be interested in her CV to see where she was before she was hired at Wisconsin. And so, you know, Arthur Reynolds is, you know, at the U, has done like the P3 parenting program, I think, or something like that. Anybody who's like a PhD person who has a curriculum that they are promoting, at the heart of it, of course, is the content and the messaging, right? Whether it's about relationship building or whether it's about discipline, whatever it is, right? And so it's that teaching thing. And then you want to evaluate the effectiveness, and depending on, so is it knowledge change? Is it behavior? Is it skills? Is it a relationship, emotion, whatever? So I guess my one thing, as someone who has advocated and participated in the evaluation of ECFE and understands the challenges with it, is that ECFE's evaluation machine is not different than an individual researcher's motivation to do research on that model. And so, if that makes sense. So the culture that Margaret is in has very much encouraged and demanded that she have evaluation.
Right. I understand that. Yep.
Yeah. And so, and it's also, I would probably guess, except for teaching, is that it's been pretty narrowly focused. Like that's been her thing. Like
Right.
she's been very interested in racial disparities, and, you know, and an application is around parents and stuff like that. And so that's been her focus. The administration of an ECFE program, as we all know, is broader than that and changes and whatnot. So I'm not being defensive of ECFE's evaluation. It's just when I hear it, it's like two animals.
Yeah.
Right? It's kind of, it's two different things. And I'm really, really happy that she does have this good evaluation data. Now I get to you. So when someone like you, so if I was in her shoes and someone like you reached out, and especially you represent the early child, you represent the community I care about. If her program was for parents of high schoolers, and then Jennifer reached out to her and said, I work with early childhood, you know, it'd probably be like, oh, that's really nice, but I don't need you, right? And so, I mean, because that's a thing. But you reaching out to her representing the early childhood community. And I would very much guess, unless she's from this area, nobody knows about ECFE largely outside of Minnesota. And even if she's in Wisconsin,
Mhm.
she may have heard about it, but my guess is if she has just come to Wisconsin to take this faculty position,
Mhm.
is that she doesn't know about it. And so you, in a lot of ways, I would say you are handing her a gold mine. You are handing her the potential for, so when I was doing the Parentopia project, if I went to Menafee or if I was talking about it and there was somebody from Indiana who came and said, I have this child care center and I'm trying to find a better way of reaching parents. Would it be possible for me at some point to do Parentopia with I would drop my drawers in excitement. I would be, because one of the things that you want to do as a researcher is, and especially if you have an evaluation of a product, is that you want to demonstrate that it's not a one-trick pony.
Right.
It doesn't just work on this population, that it can work on with a population of African-American families, or it can work with a low-income working class population, say, that are white, that are
Right.
evangelicals,
Right.
so so you want to, what they call in this thing, right, is to scale up. You
Right.
want, and especially if she's looking at some point, and the university is going to want her to make money off of this,
Mhm.
right?
To sell her curriculum.
Right. And so to be able to market that program to other people, and then that's like a double whammy, because more people are using it, which means more data for her, which then
Right.
she can aggregate with the existing data that she has, which means more journal articles, more exposure. And then that becomes, I mean, this is what happened with like Joyce Epstein with like family engagement stuff. She had a framework out of Johns Hopkins years and years ago. She was about the only person doing it. But then as she went out and then she tested, she got evaluation data, she did her talks at conferences and stuff like that, became better known. She became the family engagement person, right? And so Margaret is probably on that track to becoming the white families talking about racism with their kids person, which is great. It's great for her. It's great for the world, especially if it's a good curriculum. And so again, coming back to you, to have somebody, and she doesn't know you, so unfortunately she doesn't know you, so that she doesn't know how wonderful and amazing you are, and and like how lucky she is that you contacted her. But just getting this name, Sarah Hardy, contacting her, and you represent Minnesota, different state, different population, early childhood, and the connection to an infrastructure. This isn't, like of a school district. So
Right.
if she doesn't contact you back, well, and we know right now it's the beginning of a school year and she's going to be
Sure.
busy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But she's going to be really excited.
Well, that's encouraging. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so curious, like what her curriculum includes.
Yeah.
Specifically, how she did it or they did it. And to be frank, like how I could make mine better if hers is, I'm always interested to know like how to affect change in this area. So, right.
Yeah.
So Sarah, you mentioned you designed a curriculum for this specific topic, like
I did, Yuji. I did so I, as I told her, I try to keep my note brief, but as soon as I became a parent educator, this was a topic I wanted to tackle with parents because I was working in Edina and I really wanted to bring it forward to parents in my classes. And so in ECFE, I would bring it forward the first couple of years. I had some great professional development to support me. And I had a wonderful colleague who collaborated with me. And that first year, I'm pretty sure I was able to bring it forward in about April as a topic, like, we got to talk about this, you guys. I'm bringing this to you. So that felt really courageous and at the time and vulnerable. And every time I tackle this topic, it still feels that way a little bit. and then, so that was the seed, Yuji, and it struck such a chord with the parents, like they were really craving it by and large, like wanting to talk about this and not knowing how, that I was really excited and motivated to continue doing that. And so I did that again in the following spring, and continue to do that with all of my classes until, with the possible exception of my parents of 2-year-olds, because they're just really still really tired in survival mode. Anyway, definitely parents of 4 and 5 or 3 and 4 and 5-year-olds. And then, COVID happened. I didn't get to it with that spring with that cohort. We were in survival mode because of COVID, because we all converted to online. Remember that fun time?
Sweet.
And give me a shudder. And then George Floyd was murdered. So then, Yuji, I was like, okay, well, I can't let this go, even despite COVID. Like, this is more important than ever,
Yeah.
which so many people felt, right? And so I also, well, anyway, long story short, I fleshed it out into what I thought it needed, which was 4 90-minute
Yeah.
modules.
4 90 minutes.
And it's still not enough. I mean, it's really like an 8-week class. Like we need more time. We need more time to practice talking about it. We need more time to be in community with each other about it. But yeah, so I taught it that summer, 2020, on my own through Edina Community Ed. And I did it through Mount Olivet Church for a cohort of their parishioners and faculty, like staff. And then I took it to the Blake School where my daughters were enrolled, and I developed it further with a colleague there, their director of equity and inclusion there. And so it is now in that form. And I took bits of it back to 196, and did it again in the early childhood space, but not the whole series, because that was ECFE and we had to move on. And those classes are only 14 weeks at the fall, and then like 10 weeks and 12 weeks, because they run quarters in 196. So I wasn't able, I just didn't run the whole thing, but I did run most of it for like where there was a class called Tackling Tough Topics. So we ran most of it through that.
Sarah,
I'm
is the
very-
sorry, go ahead.
So I am very interested in this, your curriculum, and I wonder, like, how can I learn about your curriculum? And maybe you and me, we can.
Oh, we
discuss.
should talk. Oh yeah, that'd be so
Okay.
fun.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
I mean,
I'd love to jump into that conversation.
Of course, yeah.
Mhm.
wow, that's great. And do you so this is your curriculum seems like designed for families with 0 to 5 children, or do you think?
I mean, like everything, Yuji, like I have it, and then I'm like, so these are 0 to 5 parents of 3-year-olds. So we're talking about 3-year-olds, right? And then I have also done it with parents of grade school kids or high school kids.
Oh, really?
Right?
That's awesome.
Of course.
That's
So
even more
then,
exciting
you
for me
just,
now.
like we do as parent educators, we modify, right? We
Yeah.
adjust to who we're talking to.
That's great, because the program I'm building, we are the population is for families with children 0 to 18, and
Yeah.
oh my gosh, so I need to schedule time with you.
Well, let's do it. That'd be fun.
Yeah,
Come on, Jennifer, let's do it.
So you mentioned that you are working with school age families, and so I thought, are you still working for that that district? The district.
No. So I gave notice, sadly. I was very mixed about it. Wonderful district, 196. Like I told them in February last year that I was going to finish in June. I told them as soon as they were asking about people's plans, because I wanted them to have all the time they needed to prepare and for closure and all, it's just professional to let people know. Anyway, so I'm not with 196 anymore. And that is because my personal situation has changed, which was that we are empty nesters. And so we are going to be snowbirds in this winter. And that was our planned lifestyle now from here forward. And so I can't be tethered to a district-based job anymore.
Oh my God.
So I'm going to develop my business.
I didn't know this, Sarah.
Well, it's okay, Yuji.
I missed many sessions of
I don't know
this.
that I've been to many sessions. Like I mean, I guess people maybe anecdotally know it, but there wasn't like a big
I mean,
have an
oh,
announcement.
Sarah, you and me, we definitely need to schedule a meeting.
Okay,
Okay, so could you
let's do
give
it.
me your email address? I
Of
mean,
course,
I
of
I want to
course.
schedule time with you.
Yeah.
That's so exciting.
So part of me, of course, is like, well, I'd like to know if my curriculum is as effective as Dr. Kerr's,
Right.
right?
Oh,
Like I have a
So
hunch
that-
that it is, but
wait, yeah.
did she share? Did she share? I'm sure she must have published work on this. Did she share the measures that she used?
I'd have to rewatch and reacquaint myself with. I've only watched it once, the webinar. So
Did
let
they
me
include a
see.
bibliography or a
Accompanying
resource?
documents. There were no accompanying documents. I guess I could Google her and find out, but
Yeah, Google Scholar. Don't
yeah,
Google.
I don't know. I just watched it and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to email her.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's as far as I've taken it. But I should watch it again. What I can tell you is she codified conversations. All of her data was prose from parents, words, quotes from parents.
Mhm.
And she coded it into, she identified 3 themes of kind of efficacy with the parents. And one was like, community. It's all the stuff we all already know,
Mhm.
finding people who have, who like are like you, and having a structured forum in which to talk about this stuff was super helpful. And she did some interesting, you bet, did some interesting looking at, before George Floyd's murder and after George Floyd's murder, what families were reporting about whether and how their conversations had evolved as a result of that inflection point.
Mhm.
But it was, 20 families. So it was all just kind of on a case by case basis. There were a few threads that she was able to connect some dots, but
So I just found this PDF. I wonder if she's an extension specialist there. Anyway, the more
Yeah,
that
I
you
think
can
that was
get
in her
through-
bio that she's with the extension.
Yeah, so when I was at Wisconsin doing my doctorate, like my advisor was an extension specialist in that same department. So, I mean, they're all retired now, but that would make sense too. So the more, if you can dig into her published research, the advantage for you, for your case, would be to see the kind of measures that she used. Like, what is she
Mhm.
looking for in terms of outcome measurement of, if she's doing any kind of quantitative stuff
Mhm.
and all of that. But you took the evaluation class, you could do it,
I did. I could. I know. Have
Probably
to
could.
dust that stuff off. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, that would be something, Sarah, that if you would ever want to spend a Zoom session, and we could promote it this way of kind of workshopping, how do you design an evaluation for a curriculum like this, right?
Mhm.
And then get input from other people. I think it would be really helpful and useful to other parenting educators, because my experience in teaching the evaluation courses, as a lot of you guys know, you come into it and a lot of the educators are like, it's a whole different way of thinking. You're used to the content, you're used to teaching methods, you're used to relationships with parents, things like that. But then thinking about how do you evaluate this program, a lot of students were like, oh my gosh, it's like higher order, different thinking, and it's going to be statistics and stuff like that, when it isn't. I mean,
Mhm.
but I think just applying that sort of those questions of what do you want to know? What are your
Mhm.
goals? What are your outcomes that you're looking to do? And now let's step back and find ways to measure it, right? And
Mhm.
then you can get into the implementation. But if you would be interested in that, I mean, down the road, you could leave with some good tools for your program. And if we would open it up, since we would open it up to anybody who would want to join, I think at the very least, they would pick up those valuable thinking skills, like,
Mhm.
that process of how do I construct an evaluation something new I'm doing.
Yeah, cool. That's a great idea.
Yeah, but definitely look at, I mean, anytime we take on a new research thing is like we look at other people who are doing a very similar kind of thing. Even if it's like if I'm doing a thing on parenting teenagers, I might look at, but I'm really interested in parent-child relationships, right? Then I'm gonna look at other parent-child relationships research and look at the measures that they're using, And, but that's where, especially if she's doing this, is to dig into the stuff. And if you ended up, but qualitative research is so time consuming.
Mhm.
So
I remember you with the COVID research that you did over the summer 2020, based on our group, and tabulating all of that with your grad students and talking about how much time it takes.
yeah, and so I mean it's great, and it's a great thing to do, but it can also, but I'm just thinking, so what she presented was qualitative stuff, but again, she probably had research students and she had the resources and the time and all
Right.
to come up with this good
Right.
stuff. So the bottom line is just, Sarah, is just that, if you wanted any assistance with this, since what thrills me about our group today, especially too, is that, the four of us represent kind of different facets of parenting education. And a lot of times our focus is so much on ECFE. And so, going into new places and starting new things and being in different states and different agencies and stuff like that, it still is what we do. And it still is loving parents and wanting to support them, but we don't always get a chance to talk about those different venues and spaces.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Fun. Well, I'm going to have to noodle this, and I'll certainly let you guys all know if I hear back from Dr. Carr. I think it'll be a couple of weeks probably, because she's probably just buried with.
Yeah. But also
back
about
to
your
school.
own, even if you don't hear back from her.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yep. Yep.
She's in this.
I've invested a ton in it. And this is what the reason I'm currently real jazzed about reflective dialogue too, is because I'm working with Heather Klein using a video that really tugs at implicit bias and pushes the envelope in personal development, which, Jennifer, to address your question, like one of the things that's been super important for me as an educator is to do my own work and keep pressing my own reading and seeking opportunities to learn more and not getting complacent. In Edina, actually, there's a great flourishing community called the Anti-Racist Coalition that started with the Edina Community Foundation, but the gal who really was the champion of it decided to pull away from that and become no longer affiliated and just become the Anti-Racism Coalition, and she doesn't have Edina in the name anymore, so it's just ARC. And so seeking out those opportunities as a human to continue to engage with people who are also engaged in that work. And funny how community keeps coming up, finding people who are interested in the same things or thinking about the same things. I almost never read a book by a mainstream author. Say mainstream author anymore. I'm always, because I've done a lot. I mean, I've read a lot of fiction, but I haven't read a lot of fiction by people who don't look like me. So I'm really trying to build that, I think as an educator, just deepening your own understanding. And then, there are great, Embrace Race is a fantastic resource. What else? I mean, this webinar from NCFR, if you just read, there's often stuff that comes up on those email offerings. What else?
What's the one from, it's on the tip of my tongue. Is it a podcast of Little Moments Count, or what is
Yes, that's right. That's a good one.
What is that what it's called?
I think so. Little Moments Count. I haven't been listening to that one as faithfully. It kind of paused at one point, and it slipped from my queue, and then it never got back.
Okay, but that's
Little Moments Count is the organization that it's the Early Risers podcast.
Early
Oh.
risers, that's
Oh,
what was
yeah.
on the tip of my tongue.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, that's it.
Okay.
Oh, Yuji, you already emailed me. You're so great.
I think like we also need to schedule a time with Jennifer, talk about your curriculum. You know, like
Yeah, I'd like that.
my next week is good. So I wonder, Jennifer.
Not good. Next week is not good
Not
for me.
good.
Sorry. I just looked at it. I'm like, oh no. Oh geez. Part of the reason, by the way, I'm a 2.5 is, boy, I don't know if I want you to record this, Susan, but
Oh, I'll pause it. Hang on.
okay.
Field, you know,
Right.
for the
Yeah, I'd love that. Thank you.
That sounds
Yeah,
great,
yeah,
Yuji.
yeah.
I would love
Yeah.
to talk more. I would love to get your feedback on the curriculum because
You
it
know
is
what,
definitely a work
Sarah?
in project.
Yeah, if you want to evaluate, you know, it's possible we can implement your program and evaluate, you know, with you, right? So that is possible, I think.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, first though, I'd love your feedback because I have collaborated with some colleagues who I deeply respect and have gotten really been enriched by. But it's an ever changing, ever evolving thing. So like all curriculum,
Of course.
well, like all of my curriculum.
I think
Maybe
like
not
all.
Dr. Kurt's
Yeah,
because
like
Dr.
all.
Kurt, when
Yeah.
she locks it in, is like, this is how you have to do it. You know, this is the problem. It gets really rigid, right? Once you have evidence-based curriculum, am I right, Susan? Like all of a sudden, that's all you can do.
Right. Especially if you do an implementation evaluation, right?
Right.
Then especially we've tried and tested not just the content, but also the delivery of it. And so that to be most successful, this is what you need to do.
Which removes like so much flexibility and
Mhm.
the ability to respond to the people in front of you.
Exactly.
And the
unfortunately,
events of the world in front of all of us.
That's right. And
Right.
then as the world changes, that's right.
right. And a lot of times, I mean, I've done implementation evaluations too, and a challenge is, but I also know that that if you have a good curriculum in the hands of a really good educator, right? But good
Yeah.
teaching oftentimes isn't what's evaluated, right? As ironic as that sounds. And so it's just like, yeah, but if somebody can't relate to people and they go
Right.
through all of the steps and things like that, probably you'll end up okay, but it is very rigid and it doesn't allow for people's experience. And I mean, I've never been a huge fan of like canned curriculums because I always change them, right? They don't work with my learners. They don't work with the time frame. They don't
Mhm.
work with, or that's the other thing is the more experience that you get, it's just like, I know how to teach this and it's not this, right?
Mhm.
I know how to teach this and especially to this group. And this is going to need
Right.
this is going to need a
Right.
warm-up exercise. This is
That's
gonna,
right.
yeah.
That's right. That's right. And that's, I mean, so every time it's never the same. Every
Right.
time I've done it, it's never the same. And I don't want to lose that flexibility, but I would be very interested, Yuji and Jennifer, in spending some time with you explaining
Love that.
like my thoughts and the evolution of it all.
Yeah.
And then maybe
that.
thinking about an evaluation plan, Susan, actually,
Mhm.
because I do want, like, I think I know that it pushes the needle, and
Mhm.
and is helpful because I hear that anecdotally, but I've never measured it.
Yeah. But you know what, there's maybe that's okay, Sarah. I mean, I think evaluation is useful depending on what you need from it. So in Margaret's case or Dr. Kerr's case, she needs evaluation data to demonstrate to her funders or to the people who are hiring her that this research that she's doing or this model that she's using is effective, right? So so definitely if you apply for funding, no one's going to give you money to do your program again unless you can demonstrate that it works. And so, but on the other hand, if it's about money, if it's about growth, but there's these researchers in Australia that I was talking to, there's a piece of technology that is used with divorcing couples called Our Family Wizard. And it was actually started here. It's for couples who are in relative conflict during divorce. And bye, Jennifer.
There you go. Bye-bye. Good to see you all.
Yeah.
And so it gives them a single app to use for communication. And then
Cool.
stores the data, and it's also a communication tool so that if he's paying for this or I'm paying for this, like it's all in one place. And it also is, can be used for court proceedings if need be.
Mhm.
Anyway, so somebody from the family law industry created this thing and it's become huge. And a lot of people use it and they pay for it and everything. And the thing has not been evaluated.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
and so the answer there is if you have a product and it's working, I mean, it's making, and especially if you are, and like a whole other conversation we need to have at some point is putting a dollar amount on our time, right? So whether it's with another colleague, whether it's with parents, whether it's to teach a class, whether it's to give it, whatever. Anyway, don't get me on that soapbox. Anyway, but if you are collecting dollars for your program and it's working and people know you and word of mouth and it's really good and stuff like that, and it's one more thing to evaluate, like, so I'm the evaluator saying maybe you don't need to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's all dependent on what.
But it also could be kind of an interesting project.
Oh, totally. And also,
Right.
this is what I said in the 46 classes, like if the only way that you use evaluation is for your own professional development, if you want to find out if something that you're doing, produces satisfaction or produces change and you don't write up that data, you're just using it for yourself, that's still incredibly useful.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yep, it would be.
So, well,
Okay.
we are past time and
So fast. So
Fun
Susan,
conversation.
could you give me a just short, like a brief update? So what happened to Parentopia? You said it's not using it, and what
oh,
happened
I'm
to it?
gonna, yeah.